the multi level nature of man. The progress of Western science has forced us slowly but surely closer to this point of view. We have found it increasingly impossible to study the physical without becoming aware of phenomena that are non physical, which we might even call energy. We end our study of anatomy by beginning to study physiology. We end our study of physiology by beginning to study the active integration of an organism as a whole. And this level of biological functioning always involves energy. Newtonian physicists were interested only in mechanics. They were concerned primarily with understanding how one physical body moved in relation to and was affected by another. In the 20th century, however, electromagnetism has become extremely important has the study of nuclear forces. More and more, we have come to grapple with the questions: what is the relationship between matter and energy, between the physical realm and realm of energy? What in fact is energy? If we can't see it, if it's not material, is it scientific to talk about it? Obviously, energy is crucial. It makes us move, it makes us light bulb glow. Whereas our state of art machinery of a century ago burned coal to make stem and push pistons, our machinery of today has become more subtle, channelizing energy through the tiniest of circuits to perform electronic miracles. How can we understand this phenomena? Einstein sees these questions and formulated an answer E is equal to mc square, specifies a relationship between energy and the matter. It also states that they are interconvertible. Matter can be changed into energy. The most dramatic application of this were the atomic explosion which snuffed out whole cities in Japan. Yet Einstein formulations also states that energy can be converted into matter. The process does not only move in one direction. In Sanskrit, the level of functioning involves energy is called prana. Advanced meditators of previous ages found that there is not only a relationship between the gross physical body and prana, but there is also a relationship between prana and the next higher level, the mind. Intuitively and in our everyday expressions, we acknowledge the relationship between the mind and energy. At times, we experience a great deal of vitality and clarity of mind, while at other times, we experience a lack of mental energy. Various schools of psychology have formulated this in more precise terms. For example, Freud called this energy libido. According to ancient yogic text called Upanishads, the various levels of existence form a continuum: the physical, the pranic, the mental, and the higher level of consciousness. These levels are layered one upon the other. If the mind wants to affect the body, it alters the flow of energy or prana. If the body affects the mind, this is too is accomplished through an act of on the flow of energy, which in turn has an impact on the mind. Prana is called the vital link between psyche and soma. Vital energy, vital because energy is the very basis of life and vitality. When a person dies, the energy leaves. The body is still there, but the prana departs. Here we return to the matter of breath because breath is the vehicle of for prana. When someone dies, the vital energy departs. We say that person has expired. On the other hand, when someone experiences increased mental energy and creativity, we say that person is inspired. We indicate through our language and intuitive recognition of the relationship between the inspirations, aspirations, and the vital energy necessary for life and creativity. Yet, this vital area of existence is neglected in the Western study of man. This is an intriguing situation when we stop to think about it. For if it is true that breath influences both body and mind, then the rhythm and the rate of the breath would reflect not only one physical condition but would also help to create it. It would be an important indication of one emotional and mental state. Therefore, what is going on inside a person could be judged from his breathing. And this is exactly what happens. Yogis sometimes appears to read minds simply by observing the quality of a person's breath. Constantly confronted with this rather obvious information, it is bizarre that we continue to ignore it. Here is something that takes place continually in the plain view of everyone, giving away the essence of our physical and mental states, giving away our secrets, so to speak, yet no one pays attention. The most fascinating and revealing kind of information is being broadcast, but no one else is receiving. We are always busy with our thoughts, which we show around like bric-a-brac in our head. We regard them as our most intimate treasures, no doubt because our overwhelming preoccupation is with the material world, and thoughts are the means by which we consciously process our experiences and interactions with the universe outside ourselves. Yet, if we were to become aware of prana and study it, we would find it is just as complicated as the body and almost as complicated as the mind. There are, for example, different qualities of energy, different pattern through which energy can flow. These varies tremendously both qualitatively and quantitatively. In the Upanishads, the pranic level is described as a second body within the physical body called the vital sheath. The Upanishad says that it takes on the shape of the physical body. If we were able to look at one another, seeing past each other physical body, we would perceive a subtle body, instead a body of energy. Not only in matter being pushed around through the veins and the arteries and the respiratory passages of our body, but changes in energy states are also taking place. Energy is being consumed in one place and produced or stored in another. It is being shifted from this point to that, so we might say there is an energy flow. If we could stand back and look at this continually shifting picture, we would be able to map out an overall pattern of flux. Even though most of us are not able to do this, we can still understand that something of this sort is actually constantly happening. This inner energy flow is such a delicate and intricate thing that some experts have spent their entire lifetime in its explorations. In the ancient literatures of yoga traditions, entire books have been written on the subject. These texts describe five major forms of prana, each having its own functions. The pranic sheath has an extremely complex anatomy composed of pathways called nadis through which the subtle energy flows. Next arises the question of how this pranic body is regulated, so that we might see whether there is some possibility of developing the ability to consciously control it. Many variables have an impact on the pattern of energy flow. Yogis claim if one contracts a muscle of the arm, the overall flow changes to accommodate this. The one functions which has the most central and strategic impact on the flow, however, is that of respirations. Breathing brings in oxygen for fuel and energy exchange. Its rate and rhythm, its course and depth all have an effect on the way the body is energized. This determines whether energy comes in frequent, short burst or in log, more gradual wave which establish a pulsating pattern of energy in the physical body and mind. If we were able to study this pattern in depth, we could derive a wave form which would describe both the frequency of energy input as well as their amplitude in any particular individual at any particular time. The flow of breath then is constantly helping to shape the pattern of energy flow that underlies and sustains the physical body. Grasp, if we can grasp the significance of this, if we can understand the crucial way in which the energizing effect of the breath supports the metabolic processes of different parts of the body, we can begin to understand how the physical aspects and the activity of our body are created by and dependent on the process of breathing. With each breath, energy flow through the body in waves, constantly shaping and restructuring the pattern of energy which comprises the pranic body. If we look at physiology from this point of view, we begin to realize that the material body which we have tended up to this time to regard as primary is in fact secondary to an inner field of energy even more fundamental than itself. The flow of energy create and sustain the tissue of the body, and if the energy pattern changes sufficiently, the physical body changes also. If the energy pattern is altered drastically enough, the body can be completely transformed for better or worse. People's bodies do change, but they usually change in minor ways. This may be in part because their characteristic pattern of energy flow is set and self sustaining, since breathing habits tends to be deeply rooted in one's physiology, which has a momentum of its own. However, when the individuals sit down and deliberately begins to work with the breath, they gradually begin to see changes in the way the body functions and even in some cases in its appearance. The same thing happens when people endure life experiences that have tremendous effect on the way the energy flow. A shock or injury or other trauma of some sort may result in a change of posture or an alteration in the way the internal organs operates. Individuals may lose weight, for instance, or their complexions may change, or their face or its shape may be altered. If the energy pattern shift so that some part of the body is poorly supplied, undernourished with prana, then it will eventually become sick and perhaps even die. Physical degenerations or a malignancy may result. some sort of disease process will become evident. For the tissue cannot function without the energizing forces that supports them. On the other hand, if one's left leg is amputated, a sense of still having a leg may persist for a long time. While there are common reports of patients experiencing pain in a leg which has been amputated, the patient the patient may feel that the leg is uncomfortable or in the wrong position because the energy pattern around which the physical leg was structured requires some time to reorganize. Some animals are able to regenerate limbs which were lost. It would seem probable that this ability is based on the persistence of an energy flow to the area that was removed. Physical tissue crystallizes around the energy field that underlies it. After part of a leaf is torn away, its energy pattern remains intact for some time. This has been demonstrated through Kirlian photography. If this pattern could be maintained long enough, it is possible that the missing portion of the leaf would grow back. In fact, some plants do have the capacity to regenerate in this way. Without this underlying energy field around which to structure themselves, how would cell know where to grow? The same principle is evident in the animal kingdom where we find one cell after fertilization developing into a complete animal or person. We have tended to account for this rather simplistically by saying that cell divide and redivide and even eventually begin to differentiate. But how? How do some cells know they are supposed to change into new neurons, some into muscles and other into bone? Presumably, the information that guides the cell is contained in the chromosome. However, each of these cells has the same chromosomal structure. Yogis claims the answer is that there is a field of pre-existing forces around which the cell shape themselves. If prana gives rise to the material level of phenomena, what we must wonder in turn control the prana. According to Upanishads, the pranayama kosha or the energy bodies fashioned and governed by a still deeper and more fundamental level of existence called the manomaya kosha or mentally body. This mental realm is even subtle than that of energy and still more difficult to identify, observe, and measure. Yet each of us experience our own field of mental functioning. When we consider this yogic concept, we discover that we have in some way bridged the mysterious gap between mind and body. Such ideas are jarring to our usual way of thinking and yet somehow rings true. To understand our ambivalent response, we need to probe a bit deeper into the difference between how the yogi and the Westerner see themselves in relation to the universe.